I will call the meeting of the Marshall City Council to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. We do have a prepared agenda before us. Are there any changes to that agenda? Not, we'll operate under that agenda. The first item would be the consider the approval of the minutes of the last regular council meeting. That was held on February 10th. Council does have those minutes. Are there any corrections to note at this time?
Move the minutes.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Larry to approve the minutes as they have been presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 2, consider the authorization to award bids for the demolition of a dwelling and garage, the location 1430 East Main Street. Glenn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This resolution is for the demolition of a home on the WinStar project on South Trunk Highway 59. If you remember, we initially offered this house for sale to be relocated. We received no bids, and so we went through the process now of demolition. It does have some hazardous materials in it. That's included in the bid as well. In the memorandum, you can also see that there were 2 irregularities that we addressed with the city attorney. Those irregularities were identified as not being significant to the bid process, and therefore the resolution is recommending awarding or accepting the contract to Thompson Excavating of Taunton, Minnesota, in the amount of $9,000, and we recommend approval.
Any questions for Glenn?
Move approval of the resolution.
Motion by Dan, is there a second? Seconded by Larry to approve the resolution awarding the bid to Thompson Excavating of Taunton, Minnesota for the demolition of the house or the dwelling and garage. Discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 3 is the consent agenda. The Jane, are you going to bring the consent agenda up? Okay, consent agenda is up on the screen. You can see there's several items for action consideration. Temporary on-sale liquor license for the Chamber of Commerce to be used at Avira on May 7th. Temporary on-sale liquor license for the Chamber of Commerce to be used at Advanced Opportunities on October 1st. The request for St. Patrick's Day Parade. Consider request to determine property excess property of the fire turnout gear and donation. And finally, the bills and the project payments. Is there any item on the consent agenda any member of the council wants to remove for purposes of separate discussion? Now, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Mike. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. We'll move into new business. As we prepare in the new business, I did note there's an article in the paper last week about the Rochester City Council that had their last regular meeting. It lasted 3 minutes. We've already exceeded that, and we'll well exceed that by the time we get through probably our next agenda item, which is a presentation of the final industrial stormwater management plan. This was prepared by Bolton and Mink. I'll call on Glenn Olson, Director of Public Works, City Engineer, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Dennis, can you hit B? Very good. Good job. Some of you may have recalled we did have a public informational meeting concerning the storm sewer studies that we've been doing in and around the city of Marshall. The first one being the Tiger Lake study, and the second one being the Northwest Industrial Area Storm Sewer Study. And the reason that we are going forward with this study is because most recently we've acquired 2 large tracts of land for industrial purposes on the northwest side of the city of Marshall. Included with that then is the requirement that we have for the detention and treatment of storm sewer before it gets to its receiving stream, which is a branch, I'll call it a branch of the storm sewers of the ditch drainage system to the northwest of the city of Marshall. Our consultant on the project is Bolton and Menk, and I'll call on Dan Sarf to begin the presentation for this process.
All right, thank you, Glenn. And it's a pleasure to be here this evening. As Glenn said, I think some of you have attended the joint meetings that we've had on both this project and Tiger Lake, so some of this will be a little bit of review. The goal tonight is to present the final report that we've put together for the Northwest Industrial Area Drainage Study. And as Glenn said, cities recently acquired some large pieces of land in the northwest area of town, just north of the airport. And the goal of this is to do a comprehensive drainage study for that area, both from a water quality standpoint as well as a flow control standpoint to meet current guidelines. And each one of these areas has been kind of developed a little bit piecemeal in the past, and this is an effort, at least from the stormwater management side of it, to put it all together. Look at the existing industrial area out there as it fits with the new areas that would be developed and come up with one overall goal and a plan for that area. My part of this is going to be pretty brief tonight. I'm going to turn it over shortly here to Bill Douglas. Bill is our Water Resources Manager in a Mankato office and has been doing most of the analysis on this. And I'll have him run briefly through the presentation. You do have the drainage report itself I think that was sent out in the agendas. I also distributed the PowerPoint presentation that Bill will be running through this evening. And maybe just a word of introduction on that. We'll spend, just in the interest of time, we'll spend most of the time on the proposed improvements as it relates to this study, not a lot on existing conditions and hydrology. I guess if you have any questions on any of that, we'd be happy to answer that for you. But just to keep it relatively brief, we'll be focusing more so on the proposed improvements. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bill, and we'll be happy to answer any questions after Bill finishes his presentation.
Thanks, Dan. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to present this to you. Without further ado, I guess I'll get going on it. This first slide is a picture of our earliest picture that we could find of the conditions pre-development out there, although it's still late enough to where you can see the Merritt Pond is right there, the triangle up in the northern part of the drainage area. And predominantly most of the water originally flowed to a low wetland in this area, and now there is a city had a mitigation wetland that was constructed in this area. That water, all of this southern 435 acres flowed to this low area in this vicinity, and then had a tile that goes to the wetland right adjacent to the Merritt Pond. In the northwest corner, there was a small 20-acre parcel that currently drains directly to the private extension of Judicial Ditch number 6, which the city participated in on. And that's a very key point on this presentation, that the city participated in the extension of that, allowing the city to drain water to Judicial Ditch number 6 through this ditch. Also then in the very northeastern part of it is the largely the existing industrial park area. As you can see, at that time there was not very much development except for the pond, the Merritt Pond there, and a little bit of the industrial area in the eastern part. We move to today's conditions, and as you can see, since the early 70s when the Merritt Pond was built, the industrial park has grown significantly, and the Merritt Pond was designed at that time to mitigate the runoff associated with the industrial park. But as you can see, the rest of this orange area has the potential to be drained through this area, and we need to be able to take care of additional impervious conditions based on future expansion. So we need to be prepared for what might happen should further development occur in the industrial park. This slide is harder to see than I had hoped. It basically shows what happens if the industrial park, the industrial study limits, the red area, which I'll kind of trace, goes all the way down nearly to the, right next, adjacent to the diversion channel, around the wetland mitigation area, and comes back up and swings back to the north. And right in this corner is judicial ditch number 6, which you saw the other one, and the other photo was darker, but it's been highlighted in white on this photo. And this is just a potential smattering of industrial lots. It obviously could be changed in any way, shape that various industries need it, or by purchasing more lots, but it kind of shows how it could be developed. One key issue associated with doing developments is the airport. The airport is sized for turboprops, jets, and there's an airport circular out there that says if you have jets on your airport, you need to try and keep dry pond conditions, non-wet, try and limit the amount of ponds within 10,000 feet, around close to 2 miles, of the airport. And as you see, we have a unique shaped circle there. And what we did is we just took from the crosswind runway, 10,000 feet is this arc. From the very southeastern edge of the runways, we swung another arc. And from the very northwestern edge of the runways, we swung another. And that's how we got our uniquely shaped circle out there. Within that area, it's strongly suggested by the airport circular that you have to have, try not to have wet basins, which is the first thing that MPCA wants you to design to treat the water out there. There are other alternatives, and I'll show you an example of one. This is what we call a dual purpose basin. What MPCA wants is to, for every acre that drains into your pond, they want, for a wet basin, they want 1,800 cubic feet of dead storage, or storage below the outlet of the pipe before it overflows. And the reason for that is they want to have suspended particles fall out, and it gives them enough detention time to fall out before it gets to the outlet. And with this design, as you can see right here, we got a dashed line there which represents about what that 1,800 cubic feet would be of dead storage. So you fill up, the rain comes and fills up the pond to the level of that dashed line, meeting the water quality requirement, and then it's allowed to spill into the outlet structure. In the meantime, the other ruling that they want to have it dry within 48 hours, and so this is a filtered outlet. We have rock around it and perforated pipe there that can take the water and drain it down after the storm is done, so that in 48 hours it's dry. And it has a wonderful effect of being able to store water in the area that wet ponds have to have water in it. So we can take that first rush of water and just fill up the area below the dotted line, and then the rest of it can go in as function just like a regular pond. That is one way we can meet that requirement with the airport circulars, so that we don't have somebody turn around and say you can't have any money for your airport, federal money for your airports. We get into this picture, and it's not as good as I had hoped. We have larger pictures at the end of this report if I need them. But for the first part, we broke this into 5 sub-areas, the study area into 5 sub-areas. The first area is up in the north, just immediately north of the Merritt Pond system and the Merritt system, Merritt Center. And what we have up there is, it's a dual purpose. What the problem is that this pond has the dead storage requirements that we need, but it can't handle, if we continue to grow and add impervious surfaces that can't handle the increase in runoff without increasing the runoff downstream on Judicial Ditch 6. That's a no-no. We can't do that. We need to make sure that we don't increase the runoff to Judicial Ditch 6. Otherwise, what they'll do is they'll turn around and say, you guys have to pay more to widen the ditch out, things like that. And that's not something that we want to do. So what we want to do is we want to mitigate continued growth in the industrial park by putting this pond right here. It's designed as a wet pond. It could be a dual-purpose pond. It's right on the edge of that 10,000-foot line. Also, we've got a green line going off to the northwest. That line is a vegetated swale, a ditch that also can work as a bioretention basin if it's designed correctly. And we also have up in the runoff that comes from this site itself would go into bioretention basins before it goes in there. Rain gardens is another word for bioretention basins. And we could drain all of those into Judicial Ditch 6 and mitigate any growth in this 80-acre growth area before it goes into Judicial Ditch 6. Also, this pond or detention is needed for the growth in the area to the south. And if you have questions on, I have larger pictures of each one of these, but it seems like it's easier to present this in a large single drawing, just so you can get your bearings on each place. Area 2, I got to remember where that one is. I believe that's, whoops. Area 2 is down here in the Sonstegard property area. So it's right here. That currently runs off, goes past, well, I think Runnings is right here. And it all falls to a low area right about here, and that's where we would pick it up with a pipe and get it to the Merritt system, which would eventually go over top and get into the planned secondary system there. But to make sure that we don't cause a lot of problems with the Merritt system, we need to have a dry basin, one of those dual-purpose basins, right in the northern low point of Area 2. Area 2 is currently about 32 acres in size, and usually the ponds have to be about 2% of that size. So that's where we would have that in that particular pond. Area 3 is off to the west of the Merritt Center in this area, and that water currently drains toward this this wetland, and then any overflow, like if you have a 100-year storm or a 1% event, I guess is a better way to call that. If you have that, it ends up overtopping and ending up in the diversion channel. What's planned for this area is to take the water to the south, have a detention basin, a dry detention, a dual-purpose basin in this triangle here, allow it to overflow into a ditch that goes into this, but still have some water feed the, make sure we don't dry up that stormwater pond, or that wetland. That's one of the key things with the wetlands is we don't want to dry it up, but we also have to treat water before it goes in there if we have development in that area. That's the rules with Minnesota's Wetland Conservation Act. Area 4 is right down, it's still part of the Sonstegard property. It's right immediately adjacent to the diversion channel. And that water currently, there's a ridge right about where we see the line right there. And water falling north of that flows north, and falling south of that flows towards the diversion channel. And we would just have a, where you see the yellow mark there, we would have a, that's the low area where we would have another dry detention basin. Needing to treat, again, we need to treat and mitigate the water before it gets into the diversion channel. And finally, Area 5, that same 20 acres that we saw up on the north end, on the first drawing that goes directly into Judicial Ditch number 6, or the private extension of it, we would just mitigate our flows with another retention basin there before allowing it to outlet as it goes now into Judicial Ditch number 6. Preliminary cost estimates for the up in the north of the Merritt area. The large bioretention system and the pond expansion that takes on most of the water from this area would be about $881,000. Pond 2, which is down in the Sonstegard property but flows north, that is $322,000. Pond 3, which is over in the DeRuyter property, I think it is, if I'm DeRook. I'm sorry, my apologies. That one is $551,000. Pond 4, which is down in the south, just before the diversion, adjacent to the diversion channel, is $109,000. And additional storm sewer piping to be able to get the water from the ponds to where the outlets need to be, that would be $450,000 for a total of $2.4 million to do the whole thing. Again, one of the reasons why we break this up is as development goes, I don't anticipate that this year you would have a need for the entire industrial park to be done all at one time. These are done in 2009 dollars, but you can break it up as you need it. And if you need to be prepared for phase 1 or phase 2, there's options to be able to do that. Starting with the Merritt Pond system up in the bioretention system in Pond 1.
And just to clarify, that cost does not include land acquisition? That's construction
That's correct.
cost?
No, land acquisition is not included in that, and there's a really good reason for that. If I was to estimate it, I would try and estimate high. First thing that happens when you estimate high is, if I was the landowner, I'd say that's the number I want. So I'm not even going to get into that battle. Again, we have larger pictures after this, but that's the bottom line. I guess the bottom line is we're recommending these changes because each one of these ponds mitigates the growth and the increase. There is no increase in runoff going from the developed area to judicial ditch number 6, nor to the diversion channel. That would make sure that you don't have people claiming that you cause flood problems, and that's the whole reason for putting these pond systems in the storm water study.
So there wouldn't be any, any action required by the Drainage Authority?
I don't believe so. We would probably have to do, I guess it's a private ditch. Any connections to the public ditch, we'd have to get a petition. We'd have to petition for the right to be able to access a public ditch. But this is a private ditch, which we have a right to drain to. I would definitely coordinate it with Todd Hammer, but I don't believe that it's necessary because it's not connecting directly to a public drainage system.
Okay. Other questions? Glenn, do you have any comments first, and then?
Yes. Thank you very much for the presentation. And maybe take a couple of questions from the audience.
Maybe you can pass the microphone then, Glenn.
Question really in the first part of that, or the number 1, where the largest dollar amount, that still is within the 10,000 foot mark of the airport and right in line with the airport, where that, or we're right in line with the runway, where you show that, yeah, go back in there, where you extend the crosswind runway out right in line there. You're still not expecting that to be a problem with airport funding, to have open water in that area?
Thank you. It's a very good question. What we probably would need to do is coordinate that with the FAA. However, it does not necessarily need to be a wet pond. We can do that as either one of those dual purpose ponds, and the cost is relatively the same. But a very good question. I don't know the answer for sure.
Is it at all feasible to move that to another location outside the airport ban?
Yes, it is. To one extent, I guess I want to go to another picture that zooms in on that area. And you can kind of see below what we've shown as the blue area as the pond, that this old aerial photograph shows it was wet, very wet out there. That gives you the indication that it's the low area. If we move it further to a ridge line, then there's increased cost associated with digging the pond down and probably taking that dirt and filling the low hole. But we need the recommended, the most cost-effective place to put a pond is where the water wants to go already. And so, yes, there would be a cost of removing up to 10 feet of overburden to put it where you want it. But that's not impossible. It still drains, and from this point, it still drains both this direction, and there is an opportunity to drain things this way, this direction. And you can see from this photo, it's a wonderful photo because it gives you good evidence. All of these areas here are, I believe this was in '96 after pretty heavy rains, and you can see all of these lines here. There must have been a west wind right after a good rainstorm because corn debris has been blown up and windrowed on the one side. So you can see where the ponds are naturally, and we could move them into any of those areas and still have a good opportunity to, there's opportunity to be flexible.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. What the city would, what the staff would like to do now is have the council accept the final report presented by Bolton and Mank and authorize us to move forward with the project process. And specifically what that's going to involve is at least a contact with the property owners in this area north of the Merit Center site to take it to the next step to be brought back to council. If there's any questions about that, I'd sure take them, but in order for us to now proceed, that's the next step as I see it, receiving the report, final report, and authorizing the staff to go forward with the next step in the acquisition process.
Council, have any questions on that recommendation from Glenn?
No, I don't know if there's any recommendation, but Glenn and I have had ongoing discussions with those property owners. We have reviewed with them open ditch proposals, tile ditch system proposals, and I think this is probably the next natural step, more of the acquisition pond development. So we have had, over the last 3 or 4 years, several meetings with those property owners and tenants on this project.
In response to that, I think every time we've had a little heavy rains here, those owners have called everybody that's on the city council out there and pointed out to them that there's some water problems created because of whatever. So we need to do something with that. There's no doubt about that. Where you can put it or whatever, I don't know that, but I think we probably need to start someplace and get a general concept of where we're going to go with that.
I think our intent would be to work with the property owners to line up a couple different alternatives that the property owners would actually then say, this would be our preference in either land acquisition or direction for the construction of those facilities. We'd want to work with those property owners in doing that.
Well, I think we need to go to the next step because Bob, as well as myself, I know I have been talking with these property owners on and off starting about 10 or 12 years ago already when they were first bringing this to the attention of the city. Maybe it's been 15 years, but it's been a long time.
Right.
And we need to do something.
Were the property owners contacted about this study and the presentation?
They've been at presentations.
The informational presentation earlier this year, I believe it was in June, the property owners were
They were there?
present at that session.
And that this is essentially the exact same presentation.
And that was well received by the property owners.
I would entertain a motion to receive the report and authorize the staff to proceed in the next step in this planning process.
So move.
Second?
Motion by Dan, seconded by Larry. Discussion? not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you to the representatives of Bolton and Mink for a very good presentation. Agenda item number 5 is consideration of a contract with Melrose North Pyrotechnics Incorporated for the 2009 Independence Day fireworks program. Ben, I'll turn to you to introduce this, and then I believe Mr. Weilige is going to speak to this.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the council, I think I will let Harry do the introduction of the explanation. I know the city attorney has been working on this, and we've also been looking at it with some insurance issues as well. But I'll start with Mr. Weilige to give the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. As the council is aware, the 2008 fireworks was the last fireworks to be administered by our Marshall Fire Department. The Marshall's annual fireworks has been a mainstay of our community celebration in the fire department for over 25 years now. Our attendance has grown substantially, and since we moved it to Independence Park. The supplier of those fireworks over the past few years has been Melrose North Pyrotechnics. And along with leadership from the Marshall Fire Department, we contacted them knowing full well that we were going to have to come up with a different solution than the fire department administrating the show. What we've included for you tonight is a contract with Melrose North Pyrotechnics, memos from the city attorney, a budget on the 4th of July, and just would point out that by accepting this contract, we will not be putting our fire department personnel in harm's way, and we can reduce the liability issue that the city has picked up on an annual basis. So with that, I would react to questions.
Okay, thank you, Harry. We'll open up for questions. Ben, do you have a comment?
Maybe just a couple of comments, and I think the city attorney might want to comment on his review as well. But one of the discussions that we've had a little bit was, you know, obviously there's some safety provisions where the fire department's not having to shoot these off anymore, but part of that means is that there's greater expense to hire somebody to do that. I think one of the things that we've discussed with the fireworks is with the increased cost, we do have a couple of donors in the past, but it would be my recommendation and our discussion that going forward, we'd like to make the fireworks completely donation-driven. In the future. That takes a little work to facilitate that with the community to try and find the right people who are maybe hold something like this close to their heart and hold it as a value of something that they want to see done. So in our discussions, we wanted to ensure that we could still have a fireworks show, so we wanted to enter into a contract to make sure that they would be here and shooting them off, starting to lay the groundwork to try and find someone to pick up the ball to maybe help fund these going forward, so that in future years a greater portion, hopefully 100%, would be covered through private contributions, and that would be our intent to go that direction. We did follow up too with some insurance provisions. As you can see, we don't have to carry our own policy; they're carrying that. You know, we're ultimately probably paying for that, but maybe they spread that amongst other communities that they shoot off the fireworks with. But the city attorney has reviewed the contract and the insurance provisions. I don't know if he has anything to add, but I did want to comment on the funding of that as well.
And Mr. Weilige and I have discussed that funding issue as well. We've, you know, the insurances should be in place. What you have in front of you tonight is the new contract that was recently received, and I like their cover memo from the pyrotechnics people when they, you know, they will in the future issue the certificate of insurance listing City Marshall Community Services as loss payee. We've got the limits in place that are satisfactory. But also you notice, you know, they show up with their own crew, they show up with the fireworks, they set it up, they shoot them off, they clean up afterwards. So it looks like a nice professional group. They've provided the fireworks in the past. Now this year, for the additional expense, they will be also providing personnel to shoot them off as well. So I guess it's a recommendation to proceed with execution of this contract so we can hopefully have good weather on the 4th of July and a nice fireworks display.
Okay, we'll open up for questions.
Okay, if I understand this right, last year the city marshal spent $5,400 for this?
Correct.
That's correct?
That's correct.
And this year we're looking at 10.6?
That's correct.
Do we have that in the budget?
We made allowances for that in the budget this year, right? We had Mark Claith come and help present that at the budget process.
I have some recollection of that here, but I don't have total recollection. You need to understand that.
I understand.
And it's the expectation, as Ben, you indicated, that that 10,600, while it's included in the budget, you would fully expect additional efforts on fundraising that would reduce that amount.
That is correct. I think that would be the intention. As I said, though, it takes time to try and find the right people to pick up the ball and maybe carry some of those costs or even to help do the fundraising effort. So while I think it would be our intention to go out there and try and raise additional funds this year, if we weren't able, I don't know if we'll be able to raise 100% this year, but going forward, we want to build a fully sustainable program where it would be funded through private contributions. So I think for sure, this would be that transition year to start to build that support, and then next year to get full contributions. So we'd like to close that gap. I don't know that we can commit to say that we will absolutely do it, but we want to make sure that we do have fireworks this year, and we did provide for that. But that would be the intention to do that. Now, and I have gone through this before. Cities, this is a very common procedure that is occurring across the state, at least anyway, where you're seeing fire departments get away from doing this. The liability of departments shooting off fireworks has become so great, and finding the people willing to spend the time to do that and get trained and all of that is just, there's more and more of these private companies doing that, in which it means that there is a greater cost in providing the service, because the labor and that makes up a good portion of it. I think we're looking at a comparable fireworks show, even though the cost is going up dramatically. But the reason is because we're not doing it anymore. We're not providing all the staff. We're not probably going to have, I guess I didn't talk directly to the department, but I don't know if we have are they using our tubes and things that we shot them out of. They probably have all of their own equipment.
Bring it all along.
So again, this transition is something that's fairly common.
In the business, they would call it a turnkey operation, and we would welcome any help in helping recruit fundraisers in the future too, Council.
In previous years, we probably have understated what the actual cost was for the fireworks, because there's the volunteer efforts of the fire department, the equipment, that type of thing.
Well,
and
if
I think
nothing
that
else, it certainly gives you 25 years to times what the fire department has done for our community over the last 25 years.
That's right.
Done an outstanding job, I believe.
Other questions?
The first thing I want you to know is I have a real hard time spending $10,000 for fireworks. The second thing is I think it's very important for the city of Marshall to have this. And I realize that the period of time that we're going into this, we probably don't have enough time to put a cap on this and said, we'll pay X amount of dollars and you find the rest of it. So I kind of think we're kind of a little bit tied.
Well,
in
if I
that
could make a
aspect.
comment, Larry, at budget time, we didn't have the crisis that we have either.
And I understand that, Harry, but, so now I need to deal with it.
I would agree with your comments.
I think, I'm going to make a motion to approve this, but I would want a contingent on that in years following this, that it either funded privately, or we're going to have to take a look at putting a cap on it, or doing something different.
That should help us raise some funds.
Well, and I'm just saying, and Harry, I totally understand where you're at today.
Yep.
We're 3 months from shooting off fireworks.
Larry, I'm going to interrupt you so we can have a second before we go into discussion.
Second it.
Okay, motion by Larry, seconded
No,
by
you can talk all you
Charlie.
want.
No, I'm not.
Continue.
And I think we're 3 months away from going into it. I want to go fishing in there a couple times, so I don't have time to raise any funds. Wrap.
Other discussion
Mike?
on the motion?
Yes, I would like to see in that motion that we go ahead and do it this year, but absolutely, it will not be considered in future budgets. And I will forget by then, September, October, but that it has to be self-sustaining from now on. Like I said, with the economy the way it is, we freeze steps, we freeze wages, and then to blow this kind of money up in the air for the fireworks, I'm struggling with that, Larry, just like Larry is.
Other discussion?
Yeah, I'd like the motion to contain the fact that we will not include this in the budget for next year, and any, if it's going to happen, the money be raised privately.
I think, Mike, if the original motion that I made was, if not totally funded, capped, that we only spent X amount of dollars. If you want to put that X amount of dollars at zero,
See, that sounds good. No, I don't care.
well,
It's
I'm
your
just saying,
motion.
when it comes budget time, we're going to have to put a cap on it. That's my statement.
You can adjust that figure when you get to budget time. If it's, we have no money to spend, we have no money to spend. So we can,
That's the appropriate time
yeah.
for us to make the plans, one way or the other. I agree.
Okay, other discussion?
I just,
Yeah, go ahead.
as you go forward to do fundraising, you can let that kind of a heart be known to the people you're raising funds from. The
I will.
city doesn't want to fund it, so, yeah, that helps you give a little more leverage to fundraising.
I will, and again, I'll appreciate any help in that fundraising the council would like to assist in, so thank you.
So if there's, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Agenda item number 7, or excuse me, agenda item number 6. Consider the introduction of the amendment of the park dedication fee ordinance amendment. This was considered by a number of different groups, including the Community Services and Legislative and Ordinance Committee, and we now have a recommendation for introduction. Harry?
Just a few comments. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. We have not changed or kept up with the rising cost of real estate and also the rising cost of park development now for, I'm going to say 15-plus years. And this has been a topic before the Community Service Advisory Board for the last at least 2.5 years in working with Glenn Olson of Public Works and also our city attorney. We bring forward this piece tonight with the intent that you understand that most lots in Marshall are going for $35,000 to $45,000 a lot. The old ordinance didn't allow us to have enough dollars in the unimproved development funds to even buy one lot in the development. Last year, we cut from the budget a standard youth playground equipment set for $35,000. So it simply has not kept pace with the needs of park development in our community. So what we brought forward tonight, as the mayor mentioned, it's gone through Green Space Committee, Community Service Advisory Board, and this last week, the Legislative and Ordinance Committee. And we think this is fair, a reasonable cost, and I guess the main facet that I like about this process is that the developer doesn't have to pay the money up front. The actual transaction happens with the sale of the property with the residential piece, and I think that's both a plus, and also it gives a direct connection to those residential when they buy that they are investing in our community's infrastructure. With that, I would answer any questions.
Okay, any comments from the Legislative and Ordinance Committee?
Well, the Legislative and Ordinance Committee did look at it. Again, the timing is both good and bad. I don't like to see putting this extra cost on a lot, but right now, all of our subdivisions, we have a lot of lots. There will not probably be anything done in this area for the next year or two simply because of the number of lots that are current. So in that sense, it's a good time to do it, so that we got plenty of notice for the developers that this is coming up. I guess I do want to comment to Harry about his comment about the $35,000 of equipment that was cut out. This is for park development, not replacement of existing playground equipment. I think that's two separate issues. Replacement of equipment should come through the regular general fund budget.
I wasn't assuming that it was, Mike. I just gave it as a reference point on what it's costing us to just developed. Playground, that's just one small piece of a park development and the costs that are associated with it. We either do it this way or we do it out of the.
Well, no, I understand, but I guess what I'm saying, to playground equipment the first time around with a new park, that's park development. But from that point on,
Agreed.
replacement and is maintenance and should not be coming out of here.
Agreed.
So
Charlie?
with that, I would move the introduction of the ordinance.
Is there a second on that motion to introduce?
I'll second that.
Motion by Mike, seconded by Larry. Discussion.
Yeah, I got a discussion. I wasn't at the Legislative Ordinance Committee meeting. I had an appointment that I was at that got overextended, but I guess I have a real problem with adding the businesses and commercial developments into this fundraising effort. And I've talked to 20 businessmen, well, 22 with the two I talked to this afternoon. I have not found one businessman that said they thought it'd be a good idea for businesses to fund parks. And they thought that they see no logic in sticking that extra money on any business that would want to come to Marshall to buy that development and add that extra cost to a business coming in. You're trying to give incentives and things to get businesses here, and now we're going to stick them with an extra 5% cost for their land fees.
And we did talk about that only a little bit. If we're bringing a new business to town, hopefully it's going to bring more employees and hopefully people that are going to live in Marshall, and that's part of this whole
They'll buy
amenity
houses
thing.
and they'll pay for it. And they'll pay for their parks and they buy the houses and the lots that they're going to build on.
I'll let you. Okay.
I think, and we discussed this also at Green Space about where to put and who to charge, et cetera. In the general consensus that we came up with there was, if a business is going to move to town, one of the attractions for that business to come to town is to have a developed park system. For generally, it's going to be families that are going to utilize those type of parks. So we felt that that would be a fair assessment. Charlie, I totally understand you don't want to tax anybody, but if we don't do something, we get nothing.
I'm not talking about taxing anybody. I'm talking about taxing the people that need to be taxed for it. And I don't believe the business and commercial development's doing. We can discuss this 2 weeks from now when we call the ordinance up, and because that's all we're doing is introducing the ordinance tonight anyhow. We're not really debating on it, so. But I know right now in this town, because I'm getting a lot of calls, there's a real, not a real good attitude that they have with the city, the business population in this town right now. And I don't want to keep frustrating those things and frustrating other business people that come to this town. All right, because I want to see this town grow, and I want to see reasons for things to grow. Now, a number of the people I asked, I said, if you were making a choice to move here, would you move here and do this? And they said that would be one incentive not to. So, that's where I'm coming from. I'll leave it at that. We can vote on the ordinance, or introducing this ordinance, and we can talk about it 2 weeks from now, and whenever our next city council meeting comes up, and that's fine.
Okay, the action is to introduce. Is there any other discussion on the motion to introduce? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. Agenda item number 7, consider the authorization to advertise for bids for a crane truck for the wastewater treatment facility. Glenn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Bob Van Moore is also here from the wastewater for any questions that you might have about the piece of equipment. We have the next 3 items on the agenda. This is a new service crane truck for wastewater. You can see we've met with the Equipment Review Committee for this, and you can see also that we are proposing to bid it with the chassis, service body, and crane, the chassis only, the service body and crane only, and then bids to purchase the existing truck crane from the city. So we've left it kind of open for the best bids for the city. One of the basic discussions that we've had on this type of bid is a lot of times when you bid separate units to be combined after the bids, there could be some finger pointing as far as, gee, that truck wasn't exactly what I thought it would be to mount my piece of equipment on. And we're leaning, of course, towards someone providing the combined unit for us, because then it's one entity to deal with. But if there's a significant, the cost savings in doing this, or we know who the bidders are just, when they come in, and then we contact the chassis provider and the crane provider as well. If they work well together and that we can save money, that's what we're going to do. So any other comments of that, Bob?
I kind of looked at the state contract for equipment. You know, I talked to one of the chassis dealers and said he would not deal buying a body and a crane and putting on his chassis. He would sell that chassis to the city, and then they would deliver it to whoever would body and crane. That's one of the madnesses of breaking out the chassis by itself. Any comments from the Equipment Review Committee?
No, but I have a question.
That's kind of, concur with Glenn's recommendation.
Okay, Mike?
Yes, I'm not on that committee, so I just have a question. We've got a unit that's 13 years old. How many /hours or miles are on that vehicle?
We have about 42,000 miles on the current truck. The largest problem we have had is not big enough for the help that we're dealing with nowadays. You can't even lift several of them. New one will be larger and then faster to deal with our current equipment.
Well, in 13 years with that type of miles or hours or whatever, I guess the next question I'm asking, might there be a used piece of equipment like this? Some other community that has outgrown whatever one they have. Is that worth exploring? I mean, 13 years and that few miles doesn't seem to be a...
There's a lot of hours, though.
Well, how many hours?
Doesn't have an hour meter, but that application, there's a lot of, I know.
Well, it's sort of like the fire truck. There's no miles, but could be a lot of hours. Good. Put an hour meter on it this time so we know what we're dealing with in the future. Can't
do
cost
that.
that much.
The new chassis come with an hour meter.
Oh, good.
This is a truck we would expect to keep on the fleet for probably 12 years plus.
What's the capacity now of the crane you've got it?
Crane right now, it's rated for about 2,400 pounds.
And this one would be,
Okay, you have the recommendation to authorize the advertisement for the bids. Any other questions on that recommendation?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Charlie to authorize the advertisement for the bids for the crane truck for the wastewater treatment facility. Discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Next item is also from the wastewater treatment facility. This would be to consider the authorization to advertise for bids for a commercial lawnmower. Once again, Glenn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This one also took quite a bit of discussion in that the type of equipment that we're bidding, if you look on the second page for the specifications, we discussed air-cooled, liquid-cooled, horsepower size, diesel, gasoline, lots of different discussions for this type of a unit. And ultimately, what was recommended through the Equipment Review Committee was as you see on that sheet. So we would recommend approval of the authorization to advertise for bid. If there's any questions, Bob Benmore is here and the Equipment Review Committee also.
Okay, open up for questions.
Yeah, didn't we talk, did we say minimum specs is liquid, or did we do
Yeah.
both? Do you remember, Eric?
We suggested that it be minimum of liquid cooled and then potential diesel.
But we left the gasoline diesel out of the spec and entered it as liquid cool.
Just, excuse me for interrupting here, but it just popped in my head. So just wanted to make a point too, for the purposes of our tape recording, we need to be at a microphone for the audience for us to pick up any of the recording on that. So it would be helpful as much as possible if we can encourage people to come and use a microphone if they're addressing the city council, and also to do it at the podium would be appreciated.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, any other questions on this recommendation? Now, is there a motion to authorize the advertisement for bids for the commercial lawnmower for the wastewater treatment facility? Yes, I am. Motion by Dan. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Charlie. Discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number 9, consider the authorization to purchase a new Panasonic phone and voicemail system for the wastewater treatment facility. Once again, Glenn and Bob.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item was brought forward by Bob and Moore during the budgeting process. If you know the phone system at wastewater, it has none of the capabilities of call forwarding or voicemail system or items like that. It's a pretty antique type of phone system. Also, we had been looking into the possibility of different phone type systems integrated with City Hall. But after review with the city administrator, we decided that no, that wouldn't be necessary at this time. And there are very few entities that will give proposals for phone systems. We do have the proposals, the summary of the proposals shown, and if there's any questions, Bob is here to answer any. He knows a lot more than I do about the phone system out there.
Okay, we'll open up for questions on the proposed phone system. Council have questions?
Yeah, I guess I just want to make a comment. What I don't appreciate is there's a brand name listed here. And we've talked about that before with different things. Why would that be?
Our current system out there is a Panasonic system. So I guess when we were looking at what was available out there, we tried to stay with, our current provider was Franz Communications. We asked him what the current models would be that would do what we needed it to do. And this was a quote that he gave us. So what I did is I went out, knowing that I wanted to compare apples to apples, I went out and compared. I got another quote for the same exact model. Quite a different variations from company to company. There are other brands out there, but that was the madness of the Panasonic.
But that doesn't answer, probably in your mind answers it, doesn't satisfy my question, because what you're saying then is because we had a John Deere mower before, we should have just contacted John Deere.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. It's, there were several different models I'm sure available. I just, working with Fran, which does a lot of work with the city, that was what he kind of recommended for what we would need.
So this is a proposal that you've received and that you're recommending the purchase based on that
Yes,
proposal.
and then like I said, I did get a second quote just to make sure that we had competitive quotes on this.
Second quote was for another Panasonic.
Exact same
Do
model.
we have any quotes for anything else besides Panasonic?
We haven't, no.
Other questions? Not, you have the recommendation to purchase based on that proposal.
I would make a motion to approve the proposal for the Panasonic from France Communication. It came in under budget, and the second part of that is friends here in town. And I think if we need service on that, we'll have somebody that can respond in an orderly fashion.
Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Mike. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number 10, consider the resolution approving the plans and specifications and authorize the advertisement for bids for the Legion Field Road Improvement Project. Glenn?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This project involves, yes, please, thank you. And I think I'm going They can't see the red dot on the screen either. And if you want me on one side or the other, let me know. But this is the project that we're talking about, Legion Field Road from Kendall Street to West Main Street. And the project itself was initiated by Marshall Municipal Utilities because of several water breaks along that section. Whenever we have a project that's initiated by MU for that purpose, there's a couple of things that we look at. Number one, we have the wastewater department go out and take a look at what the condition of the sanitary sewer and storm sewer systems are in that area. And in this case, there are several and significant issues with the service line connections to the sanitary sewer main, and thus are being also replaced under this project. We have no curb and gutter on the east side of Legion Field Road along this property that the city owns, and there's a couple of different discussion points that we've had with that. Number one, should that curb and gutter be put in as multiple curbs to allow driveways wherever they are necessary in the future? Should it be full curb and gutter, full height curb and gutter, and then cut in the driveways at a later date? That's kind of discussions we're having with the development of that project. We also have some sidewalk issues and the development of pedestrian walkways from this residential development down to the park system. So we will be installing sidewalk on one side of the street on Legion Field Road, the west side adjacent to the homes, and on the east side only up to this development area. So we leave it open on the east side depending upon future development issues, whether that be residential or commercial or light industrial, whatever happens with the build out of this, we would only put sidewalks on the one side. We also have some short pieces of sidewalk that would connect to the Parkway 2 area from Legion Field Road along the south side of Madrid. And then we've also addressed some short pieces. There's one over by the U.S. Bank location where there's a short piece of sidewalk missing there that we'll address under this project as well. So it would entail water main replacement, sanitary sewer replacement where necessary, complete replacement of the street section, and installation of curb and gutter on the east side with some sidewalks.
Glenn, a question. At the crossing at the railroad, and I know you've been in discussion with the railroad as far as upgrading of the crossings, and that would qualify for a silent crossing. Are those changes being incorporated into these plans?
Yes, we have, and Shane Waterman is here. He met with the railroad, and there are several and significant issues involving each crossing for going towards silent crossings. And I'll summarize it, Shane, and if I misspeak here, let me know. There's several items that we wanted to look at there. The distance between those cross arms is one. That do we have enough distance between the cross arms to allow development of pedestrian crossings and median barriers to ultimately then allow a silent crossing? We have some issues there. I'll go back to this. We have some issues here because we have private driveways that come onto this Legion Field Road, fairly close proximity to the crossing. And you can do a couple of things. You can eliminate their ability to turn left so that when they want to go home or leave home, they have to turn right and go south. And when they come home, they have to either come home from the north side or come across the railroad tracks and make a U-turn at the end and come back into their driveway, which isn't the real preferred way to getting to their access. But But without doing that, you probably wouldn't be eligible for a silent crossing at that location. There's a minimum distance from which you have to prevent that traffic from going around the end of that median barrier and going past those cross arms. We also have at this crossing, then we would probably be making our pedestrian crossing outside of the gates. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you have to be aware of the train that's coming, that there is no crossing arm or that prevents you from walking across that track. There would have to be some additional planking put in between the rails on the track to allow a good crossing to exist there as well. But as far as development of the silent crossing at that location, I don't see a problem in doing that, Jane, other than the issue of the private access that would be within that distance.
The actual distance that they require is 100 feet from the crossing arm that we move back, which puts us most of the way down to the intersection of Kendall Street on this side and past the first two driveways on the west side of the street over here. So that's one thing we have to consider is access to those driveways, like Glenn had mentioned. And the other thing that I discussed with them was actually the overall street width. And it would cost quite a bit of money to have those existing crossing arms relocated to put a wider street in there. Right now, I'm proposing that we narrow the street down to fit within the current location of the crossing arms. What that leaves us is a 29-foot wide crossing, and in order to get that wider, it would cost approximately an additional $40,000 to get those relocated if we want to go wider. I don't know if I'm proposing that at this point for cost considerations, but all the other things that we're going to do, we're going to add some curb and gutter that gets closer to the tracks to control the runoff off of the street and get that sidewalk crossing in there and a little safer. But really, in all, I want to try to get as much of the provisions for the quiet zone study done as possible.
Okay.
One other comment, Shane, is on the additional cost to upgrade those signals, if in fact.
Yes, one of the other considerations on quiet zones is this equipment that lowers the arms is supposed to be time coordinated to the speed of the train. In other words, if the train's going through there really slow, it delays the dropping of the arms until it's judging the time that it's going to take for the train to get to the actual crossing so it doesn't drop the arms too soon. Now, if that train's coming through at 40 miles an hour, it drops them much faster because the train's going to arrive at the crossing faster. If the current equipment is not at that performance level, they'll have to upgrade it, and that is a substantial cost. The quotes were $150,000 to and more, depending on what kind of equipment that would be installed. So that's one of the major considerations that we'll have in the future if we do want to do a quiet zone through town, and we have 5 crossings. Each of them have their own challenges, but that type of equipment would be the largest challenge by far. But even without that, I think if we invest in the median as at a minimum at this point, we really have invested a lot of cost in trying to achieve somewhat of a quiet zone.
Okay, Mike?
Well, 2 comments. One is anything we can do towards starting that process of getting a quiet crossing that is within some sort of financial ability, let's do it. Second thing is I have a real problem, Glenn, with putting in curb and gutter, your raised curb and gutter, that's costing you how much a foot?
12, 15 bucks.
12, 15 bucks a foot, and then a year later have someone come and cut the damn thing out so you can put a driveway in, and then another $15 a foot to put. I would like to see that whole thing to drive over 4-inch or 6-inch curb. Then you don't have to worry about it. And I know you do not like that. I just saw.
One consideration, and we're looking
Well,
at
but
that, but for snow plowing, for instance, it's really hard for the maintenance people to find that curbing. And we do a lot of damages behind the curb because of multiple curbs. The other thing is a lot of people, a lot of residents, a lot of places don't like the multiple curb. So when we put the multiple curb, they come and take it out and replace it anyway, like for a driveway. In this case, we don't believe that we are going to be allowing any more driveways to Legion Field Road. And would be only the main roadways going into that subdivision. Right now, we have individual driveways on the other side that physically back out onto Legion Field Road. You know what, this road is being used a lot more than it used to with US Bank here and all the residential development and continued development. So our issue is there probably wouldn't be the cuts that would normally be taken if you were going to cut 25 driveways in versus 2 street accesses. So that, we're sympathetic to that comment.
But you know, I can't believe that other snowplow drivers in other communities, their entire community is that type of curb and gutter, and they get their streets plowed.
And they have lots of damage.
Well, I haven't seen that much damage.
The other thing is, I think for Shane now too, we would like to know how many of those crossings and the facilities that we have those variable speed detectors in them.
Shane, we got to have you come up. And while you come up, you could also comment on the Main Street crossing, which already has the required curb and.
My discussion with the railroad people, it was both a Burlington owner and Santa Fe representative and a representative of the Federal Railroad that I met with. So I actually covered 2 of the major entities that review these crossings. And we did go to each site, and they did what they call a site review. And so then they list all of the obstacles that each crossing is going to have in order to ride those. I expect to get a summary letter from Burlington Northern Santa Fe for this initial meeting and kind of outlay what the city's challenges are for making future improvements that would be necessary for the project. In addition to that, they did kind of quote me some costs, and I don't know if that'll be in the summary as far as what some of the issues are. We did look at Main Street, and actually what MnDOT did was mostly in compliance, with the exception of the actual 2 driveways are problematic, and that's the one driveway they left in the small engine is a little bit of an issue, and the bigger driveway issue is actually the driveway that they have into their own facility for the old depot. But they'll outlay those concerns at each crossing for us, and we'll have to review those and see what we need to do to overcome any challenges.
Thank you.
Just a question on that before we're done. I specifically asked to be notified when that visit was going to happen. Second, I would like for, once you have your summary and everything put together, I think it would be good to have an information thing at a council meeting so all the people that are concerned and all the calls we get, they can come and learn so we don't have to keep repeating. Yeah, thanks.
And they moved up the meeting by 2 weeks. Thank you.
Glenn, I have a comment on I'm still tied up on this Legion Field Road, that curbing on the east side. Do we need to do anything there until that goes into development? My concern being if we curb that or sidewalk that, and that basically now is farmed, huh? So if we put sidewalks in there, et cetera, and we get any type of pedestrian usage over there,
There's no
yeah, and the,
only on this.
yeah.
And we will be putting in a driveway, for a street wide enough for farm equipment to go in and out of that. And the other thing it does is there are 2 or 3 major storm sewer inlets along that project on the east side that we tie into, and that's another important item there for us for drainage along that side. There's one other location, I'll go back here again. There's one other location where there's an open lot along here that drains the backside of these lots through a private facility that there's an open culvert in that daylights into the field that's silted in and doesn't drain properly. So that would be changed. Curb and gutter would be put through there. The water from this area then would be diverted to the storm sewer system that's already there. But these people on this side have had a long problem area, long problem with surface water drainage for this subdivision area. And that's something that we would improve with curb and gutter and the storm sewer connection rather than daylighting it out into this field. You can take a look at where that is. It's immediately adjacent to that open lot.
Larry, did that answer your question?
Thank you, Glenn.
Other questions? If there are no other questions, you have the resolution before you that would approve the plans and specifications and order the advertisement for the bids. Are there questions about that resolution?
Move to approve the resolution.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Jenny. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number 11 is the project Y52 on Trunk Highway 59 and on Ontario Road Improvement Project. Once again, we have a couple items here. First, to consider the resolution ordering the plans, ordering the preparation of the report on the improvement, and then secondly, the resolution receiving the report and calling for the hearing on the improvement. Glenn.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. I need to go back to this aerial photo in that this project is also one that was initiated by Marshall Municipal Utilities. And the reason for that initiation was significant water breaks on the main water service main to the industrial park. And primarily the largest user being the ice cream plant, but essentially to the entire industrial park. And they do not have what we call a loop system, so that when they're shut down, there's a possibility that it would shut down the operations of the plant. What this project does is it replaces the water main from just south of the diversion channel, north to Ontario Road, east to this location, and then you can see the other red line that goes north to County Road 33 as part of the loop system. There hasn't been a decision made yet, I don't believe, as far as how much of this system needs to be constructed immediately. Marshall Municipal Utilities and our city staff has been involved with Schwann's in the development of this project. And what the alternatives are and what the best scenarios are for the replacement and improvements to the water system at this location. Another thing that kind of threw a little monkey wrench into it to start with is that the city vacated this section of roadway some years ago during the development of this industrial park, and we didn't retain utility easements for that water main that exists through there. Now, that's not a real big issue. Schwann's is certainly willing to give us the easement for a replacement water main through there, but it's the issue of how they're going to develop in the future and where that water main should be going through that, their facility and tying in to both this road and County Road 33 ultimately. Those are the types of things we've been involved with the development of this project. Another one is, we took a look at sanitary sewers and found that to be adequate, but this entire stretch of roadway is completely failed. So once we dig up this section of roadway, that would be then the time to replace the street section, which our initial intent now is to replace that with a concrete section for replacement. Also, this intersection at this location is a real problem intersection. We'll call it that. And there's different things going on there today than there were 10 years ago. The development of this facility for
Depot.
the depot, yeah, is certainly a whole lot different operation than it used to be before the trucking. So we're looking at changing the radiuses there, that little median that's located there. We're looking at changing that so that the southbound traffic does need to stop and then turn right on the east-west roadway. Now, in saying that, we don't want to, relocate those curbs too far so that you're driving over the curbs either. We're going to have it designed so that it's built for trucking. It's built for trucking at the industrial park. So we're working with the property owners around there for that. Another real consideration here is when you're under construction for a project like this, how do you get traffic in and back to these property owners back here that rely on these accesses to get there? Well, this is a vacated roadway. So this is the only public roadway we've got. So when we're tearing this up and redoing this, we certainly have to have some concessions and discussions with the adjacent property owner for access to these businesses located at this corner. That's the types of things that we take care of in the discussions with the property owners during the development of the project. Project phasing, making sure they have access at all times, where is it coming from, how is it accomplished. If you've noticed, there were several significant water breaks that flowed into the old lagoon system this winter and created a real problem for the integrity of the water system. So, if you have any questions, I know Bob's been out there several times for taking care of issues as well.
Glenn, why are you doing cement instead of asphalt?
We will look at both of them, but because of the high truck traffic on there and the high turning movements that go through there, we have a lot of rutting and shoving that occurs with asphalt. We believe that the concrete section would be the best section because of those two items only. There's a lot of turning movements that happen in there, both not only just on the roadways itself, but the access that Schwann's specifically does between their facilities and on and off that street and turning and stopping and pushing and shoving. So that's going to be our primary bid. I was certainly looking at an alternative asphalt bid, but it would have to make sure that we keep in mind that most likely soon after that we would have to take care of rutting issues, like you see on College Drive and Main Street. Those are that's a good example where you get, 5 years down the road, you have to mill it off and overlay the sections that's rutted.
Charlie?
Well, that was one of my questions, is that that why just concrete? Why we couldn't have a bid on both of them, and take a look at the cost of both of them, and then can you in that process, it costs something to keep concrete up too. I mean, concrete isn't just free and clear, and so then we have to bid all that out too. So that's another, that's got to be estimated in a 10-year cost or 20-year cost, or whatever. So we got a real apples to apple comparison to that. The other thing is this, in the cost statements or whatever, you're talking $500,000 is the city's portion of the, is that something that's assessed, or is that something that the city's just, we're paying the 500,000?
It's an assessed piece, but that would be the city's portion of that assessment. It would be, yes, it is. The city's policy on street replacement is 50%. And so that would be bonded and part of the street cost and the city's participation in that. So, yes, we have a real commitment or cost.
So you're talking we'd have a minimum of 250,000 that would be of that 500,000?
Yes, if that's what the street portion of it is. Yes. Yes, of the 640, let's say. 50% of that. So I believe in that too, that we should certainly take a look at an alternate and be able to compare them.
But, you know, compare the maintenance too.
Compare the
You know.
maintenance too, but then
Okay.
generally, if you really want to do the comparison, you do a 30 to 50-year life cycle rather than the 20-year life cycle of an asphalt road. Then you get into, you can get into apples and oranges if you do a 20-year life cycle. So, yes. It really helps to get the bids in front of you. Sometimes that's the most important thing, is seeing what the differences are. Are they close? We'll come forward with a recommendation for you.
Other questions about this?
I'll make a motion, on the report.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Mike, for the resolution ordering the preparation and a report on the improvement, and the resolution receiving the report and calling for a hearing on the improvement. Discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 11 is, excuse me.
How about 12?
Agenda item number 12, consider the resolution ordering the preparation of the report on the improvement at Baseline Road and Susan Drive. Once again, Glenn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This project is a portion of a lot of work that's been going on in the area behind the Shopko area and the Runnings building. The Nowakama building is located up in that corner. We have this area being developed under separate projects coming forward. And this one now is the development of this set of roadways. This is Susan Drive, and this is Baseline Road. And you can see the intent here is to establish that roadway on Baseline Drive up to Nowakama Drive. We will be having a meeting with the property owners concerning this recommendation. It will be to eliminate the frontage road from Nowakama Drive to the intersection up at Independent Lumber. And then the replacement of that section will be the extension of Clarice Avenue all the way up to Trunk Highway 23. We have had discussions with Mr. Klein and with the developer, Mr. Nowakama. We still need to have a conversation with the bank. Also some discussions with any other property owner that would be interested in that concept. But the reason for this is by the time we get up to the intersection, the connection that we make with Clarice Avenue and Trunk Highway 23 doesn't enable us to have enough stacking distance for access to Trunk Highway 23 prior to that frontage road connection. So the access to the lumber yard would be off of or from Clarice Avenue. And so we go through the process then of vacation of that frontage road and essentially elimination of that section. They could certainly keep it for parking, for instance, on their own lot. But this first part of the curve would probably be eliminated back to the northern limits of Nowakama's subdivision. And then access placed off of this, what you see as the yellow or green on this map. The other thing is that we wouldn't be constructing this, of course, until we had another access. Okay, because if we're going to eliminate that that location, we'll have to have the other one in place to provide that access. So it's a coordinated project with the Clarice Avenue project, of which we still need to do a annexation along, for the easterly 33 feet of this road that the city acquired and now owns. And we have an orderly annexation agreement for the north part of that, this area. So we're getting the project ready. It'll be done in cooperation and coordination with the other projects along there. And we have some significant issues that we'll want to address with the property.
Questions for Glenn?
Move adoption of the resolution or preparation of the report.
Is there a second to that motion? Motion by Larry, seconded by Dan. Discussion? One discussion item would be the, the status of that annexation issue. Actually is, all, these projects are dependent on that, so as far as, we'll need to move forward on that issue.
Mr. Olson and I are coordinating that. We actually have a meeting tomorrow to discuss it internally.
Very good. Other discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 13, consider the resolution ordering the preparation of the report on the downtown alley improvement project. Glenn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This project was also requested by Marshall Municipal Utilities, but not for water main, it's for the electrical utility, and putting it underground. If you see, this is West Main Street, and this is North 4th Street, and North 5th Street, and the project starts just, I'll call it, close to North 3rd Street, and goes all the way to North 5th Street, down that alley. The condition of this alley is poor, and what MMU is intending to do is take down all the overhead power lines, bury them from this location all the way through, and I think they even continue on, but this is the area that affects us. The intent then would be to replace the alley where necessary. And if you go down behind, I'll say behind the Gambler, it's pretty tough shape all the way along that section.
Oh, not the Gambler.
Or not.
Wooden nickel?
Nickel, I'm sorry. From the Wooden Nickel all the way down to Wells Fargo. In this section, it may be of such a condition that we would replace half of it, just the section that would be necessary for the burial of the underground.
And that will be the final action or final project that would take care of the overhead lines in the downtown area.
I believe so, yes.
Any questions for Glenn?
Well, on this project, again, I'm gonna ask the same question about the cost sharing on this. Is the city's picking up half of this? Is it,
The city would.
no, you're saying 177,000 guesstimate. Okay.
The Marshall Municipal Utilities would be paying for 100% of all of the street section removed because of their project. And then we would be assessing the remainder at 50/50 with the city picking up the other 50%. Now, we do intend to replace that with concrete as well.
This is, but this 177 is that you're taking that in consideration.
That's correct.
Okay, so these three projects together, we're talking about $700,000 worth of city participation for these three projects. Minimum.
I'll believe you.
Well, I'm just going by your estimates that you got written here.
Questions? You have the resolution that's being recommended. I'd entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Mike. Discussion? And then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. This time I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess.
I haven't gotten all the bills yet. You haven't got a commitment ready. Okay.
And we are, even though we're on a break, the mics are still live and it's still being carried.
I was surprised that it was brought up. That's fine. But I'd like, yeah. Well, that too, but I think it would be good to have a presentation on. Yeah, and they actually gave me the website. No, I mean, so we can have some public here to listen on what it'll take and what can be done and what can't be done. I actually downloaded a copy of the budget.
When they got it approved? Don't, make sure they got it approved.
No, another engineering firm had done this by itself, and then I kind of, what is it, so you like, grabbed that and looked at that, and then I, think it was one of the biggest things I took out of this meeting, with them is their website, and there's actually calculations and stuff that you have to go through.
Well, I was surprised to hear his comment on no matter what it takes. That's
Could be as much as
But
a
you know,
quarter of a million.
no, it probably though is a good comment because I think a lot of people would want to pay whatever it takes to get it quiet.
But not when we come to truth and taxation. Okay.
Well, that would be probably precedent to a whole lot of expenditures. You know. Depending on what the cost is. Now, every- it's in the public. No, we're just talking. We're not talking. No, there's a lot of this stuff.
Testing, testing. Testing?
Was it turned off?
No, the battery, it's on battery, so I think the battery went down. Which what we could do is,
Go through it again.
we could put some batteries. Why is your light on? Test.
Well, if Jenny wouldn't keep bringing stuff up,
No,
we'd
I
be
just
out of
keep
here.
yakking and yakking.
All right. You got a problem with this one?
I don't have a problem with anything.
You took my breath away.
No, I don't think it's a problem when you have a comment that you need to make, or you have a stated point of view. That's not a problem. I am.
This is just one issue. They're all out there.
Problems it's gonna cause you with your trucks.
This time we'll reconvene. We are 18. This item is, agenda item is to consider the introduction of the amendment to the zoning ordinance for an I-2 district to allow a retail, automotive, and parts store. Glenn, you have the report from the Planning Commission?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This proposal came from Mr. Ziegenhagen, who is in the audience, and it involves a piece of property immediately adjacent to the railroad tracks and West Main Street. The property is immediately adjacent also to B3 designations, which is the general commercial or general business district of the city. And the discussions that we had were whether or not the property should be rezoned into business, which allows this use, or rezone it, or allowing this type of use in the industrial zoning district. In discussions with the property owner, there is warehousing located there, and if in fact it was rezoned to business, he could continue to use it as warehousing, but if it discontinued that use for a period of a year, it would be non-conforming and couldn't be used for that anymore. So that's the discussions that we've been having. It's kind of in a unique location in that it's next to the trunk highway system, both trunk highways 59, 68, and immediately adjacent to the railroad tracks. Is it a good spot for retail? Well, certainly it's a good spot for retail because it's got a lot of traffic going by it and it's adjacent to 2 trunk highways. Is it a good location for industrial? Certainly, because the railroad tracks are there with a siding, and it's been used for that purpose for the last many years. So after all that discussion, we said, well, we would probably rather have it rezoned as business, but the other alternative was to include auto parts and accessory sales in the I-2 zone. When you include in the I-2 zone, you'd certainly include in the I-1 zone, because that's a less restrictive and transitional area that normally does include some retail sales. So we've included it with the recommendation for both zoning districts, and this then is a recommendation to introduce the ordinance, and I'll have maps and better things at the hearing.
Okay, questions on this recommendation?
Well, I guess I got a question. Instead of changing that ordinance, couldn't we use it as a variance?
It's not listed either as a conditional use
Okay,
or...
we'll put it as a conditional use.
Yeah,
I
either...
mean, because once you put it in the ordinance, then you're opening up all of your areas in the whole city to that same ordinance.
Yes.
Where if you just put it in as conditional use, you could, the council could agree upon it at any time to make an approval for that.
And what conditions that would be required to do that. If you can think of any conditions that you would place on this property owner for allowing this use in that zone, that would be a good thing to discuss. Like, would you require them to have green space on the property and buffers for the normal commercial zoning that you might have with retail sales? But we have that right across the street too. That's a business zone for coutures. And that's kind of how we associated it for the business type use of rezoning. But that's, I think, is something that would come forward in the hearing, because I think Bill, and I'm going to look at you, we've kind of exhausted those discussions internally with you. And Bill is nodding his head yes for those who can't see
But,
it.
I mean, for this particular property by itself, this particular property, like if you put it in a conditional use permit area, put it in the conditional uses for that property and give him a conditional use permit, he could still have what he needs.
Yes, he can, when you describe then what those conditions are for him to be able to operate that business at that location.
Mike?
And we couldn't, what are those conditions that you might have?
Mike?
Yes, we mentioned this at the L&O thing too, but first of all, if you look on them at page 14 too, there's a list of 34 different things that can go into I-1, okay? Limited industrial district. Now, I'll tell you how they came up with those 34 items. They got 6 ordinances from 6 different cities, and they added the whole damn works together and dumped it in here. At that time, auto part and accessory sales could have been in one of those other 6 ordinances. It just didn't happen to be, so we didn't put it in. Now, from a common sense point of view, in a light industrial zone, does it make sense to have a retail store of this type? The answer has to be yes. So, should be yes. So that's why we decided to use this route as the simplest way of accomplishing the goal.
But in this case, it is an I-2 zone, which is
Right.
more industrialized generally than your I-1 or your business. But for this specific spot, you know, I'm with you here, Charlie, as far as at that location, what should we give the property owner that will allow him to do that, which I believe would be a productive and good use at that spot? If it's a conditional use, I can't think of any conditions that are placed on them, like landscaping, or what are those conditions that would be extra and different for that use in this I-2 zone?
So Charlie's question is,
It's a good.
is a conditional use for this property, for this request, an option rather than changing the zoning?
I think it certainly is something we could talk about, but I couldn't think of any conditions. I think it should be allowed at that location.
But what, this recommendation came out of LNO. This did not come out of planning and zoning.
No, comes
So
from
out of
LNO.
LNO, then you don't use ordinances, or, right, or variances? It would be if it went through planning and zoning and it didn't quite conform, then we'd say, if we kind of twist this, we're going to get this to conform to this. Once you put it into an ordinance, that's the way it is, correct?
Yes, and you have to list the conditional uses also in the ordinance, which would go to LNO first. Once it gets in the ordinance, then it's up to the planning commission to enforce what the ordinance says. Okay, so if we want to include it as a conditional use, we would put it in that location, but then there would be these conditions by which we would then consider to allow it if there's a request. And I'm thinking, I'm telling you right now, and I'll tell you at the hearing, that I think it's a good location for that use. And I think it should be rezoned to a business, but that might prohibit warehousing if he lost his warehousing for a period of at least a year. So I see Bill is here right behind me, so he can bring these things
Well,
up
I
at the
just got
hearing
one
as
more.
well. But we've talked about just what you're talking about.
Okay, but no, can I just ask you one more question before you leave? That's, when you put in a conditional use, basically, under the conditional uses, it says an auto parts store can go into this, can be a conditional use. That's all you're putting in there. You're not saying an auto parts store could be a conditional use if it has a 35-foot setback, a 65-foot sign, and 16 feet of grass down the middle. I mean, it doesn't have to be in there. All we have to do is have in the conditional use, an auto parts store can be a conditional use for an I-2.
Yes, and it implies that there are conditions for that use in that district. And generally, what you have in a conditional use is something that's kind of more restrictive than you'd like to see in that district. So that's exactly what you said. Now you want the setback, you want a buffer, you want a berm, you want some trees, you want some fences, you want to separate it from something else. And in this case, I can't see any conditions, and we should allow it in that location without condition.
Could I make?
You have a comment?
Yes, I got a couple of comments here. One, we can take any one of these 34, 36 items and introduce an ordinance and throwing one of them out. Well, we can add one too, but if you look on the I-2, for example, page 14.3, I don't think we're going to be putting up any fallout shelters. So we could just well take it out of the ordinance altogether. It ended up in there as a basis of putting together 6 different. There's no reason to take it out at this point. But if you look 3 below that or 4, it says in industrial I-2, you can have a garage, you can have storage, you can have repair and servicing of motor vehicles. So you can have a repair shop with 8 vehicles standing out in front, waiting to get in and get fixed in the industrial. I think the auto part and accessory sales would certainly even fall under that or close to it. I mean, that's going to be less of a eyesore, certainly, than that auto repair place.
Won't be an eyesore.
That's right. This won't be.
Won't be
So
nice.
I don't see a problem
Bill,
with
you,
adding it.
you have a comment you want to make?
Charlie a little bit, and I truly don't think you're against this, Charlie, but you're just asking a question. Two things on my point as a property owner. I believe with a conditional use, it'd have to come back every year, every 3 years and get it. That might be a problem when I have a lease on it. They may not look at that very well. The second thing, as far as to put it in an I-2, most I-2s is not on a busy highway like what I've got. If they wanted to go out in the industrial park, what would we really care? If you got Swan's people, all that traffic, maybe they do want an auto parts store out there. We've got an animal hospital out there. Why is that there? You know, things like that, I guess, really doesn't matter much in an I-2. It's the most less restrictive of anything, I feel. I mean, it's usually big towers and smoke coming out of them, everything else. So, any other questions?
No, I guess I don't think you have to come back every 2 or 3 years. The only time you'd have to come back is if you tried to change the use of it or change, and that's the only time that you'd have to come back for a conditional use permit to be approved. But for me, there could be many more industrial districts that we build in this town, and there may be a point in time where we say, you know what, in that industrial district, we don't want an auto parts store. Well, now we can't say we don't want an auto parts store because we've already committed to having an auto parts store in the I-1s and in the I-2s, no matter where they want to put them. Well, I might want to have a say whether I want to have that I-2 filled up with those type of stores, okay? So a conditional use permit, to me, gives us that control where we can say, okay, it's a conditional use that we can use, and no, that particular Duroc property, we're not going to have anything like that on it. All right, so it gives us a little more control over what's going to go into future developments and future things. I mean, I went through this list and looked at this list and just remember the town of Marshall. I think they probably, you know, I thought they made the list by including everybody that was already there.
I totally agree.
Some of them, right?
Charlie, as far as business standpoint,
I don't disagree. I'd like to have,
we
you
can
know,
get in this town.
I would like to have that
auto.
auto parts store on your property, right there. I don't see a problem with that. But I'd like to do it with a conditional use permit rather than opening up our ordinances and giving all the I-2 and I-1s the permission to put that type of store. Because now somebody else can come along and say, well, you know what? This isn't an auto parts store, but this is a different kind of store, and that fits. Let's just tweak it just a little bit, you know? And
I
then,
prefer to get it just listed. I thought that was easiest way after I talked to Dale.
okay.
I think the action we're really looking here for tonight is an ordinance to call for a public hearing. So we can sit here and beat this to death, and guess what? Then we're going to have 8, 10 people here in a couple weeks, and we're going to do it all again. I would like to make a motion to call for public hearing on the ordinance.
Second.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Dan to introduce the amendment to the zoning ordinance. Discussion on that motion?
One discussion is that certainly could be the outcome of the hearing. For instance, that'd be moved to a conditional use. That's all.
I think it'd be wise.
Any other discussion
Just
on the
my
motion?
opinion.
Not a call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 15 is consideration of the 2008 budget amendments. Tom?
Mayor and council members, the reason I'm here this evening is to ask for your adoption of a resolution to amend the budget for 2008. The reason that we come forward at this time to request an amendment to the budget is that there are a number of situations where there's inadequate funding that may occur within the year, and in other cases, the revenues and expenditures were indefinite and the impact could not be determined at the time that we adopted the budget. What I have done is I've gone through all funds that we have and have come up with a number of different adjustments that I am presenting you here tonight. These adjustments are within the general fund, the special revenue funds, capital project funds, debt service funds, enterprise funds, and special agency fund. Like I indicated, I've gone through here and tried to give the impact of each one of these entries and give an explanation of why the entries are being made. I hope that you've had an opportunity to go through and review these, and in lieu of me going through and reviewing every entry that I have here, I guess I would open it up to any questions that you may have on any specific area or entry that there is there.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Questions? Mike?
Tom, we talked about this last year. Slopping numbers from one account number to another. This is much, much better than last year, okay? But I still have a problem like on 15.3 when you move salary from assessing into the municipal building. There is no logic between the municipal building and taking the wages out of assessing to cover the shortfallings in the municipal building.
And that
Run them both through contingency or debit, but assessing has nothing to do with the municipal building other than they occupy space there like you do.
It was my understanding that that was brought to you earlier on in the understanding that since that position in the assessing was vacant, that those monies that were available in there were allowed to be used for the renovations in City Hall.
I don't recall, I don't remember that.
That was presented to us at some time.
That was actually prior to Glenn's arrival.
So that's
Ben,
why
I don't remember that.
What's the right one?
Ben's.
Ben, did I say Glenn?
Glenn.
I'm sorry. Was,
That was a long time ago.
Well, that was talked about.
Okay.
That's why that one was
Okay.
done that way. That wasn't the normal way that I intended to do these entries, but that one was that way because of that situation.
And that's my fault, because I don't remember that, but it just, did we do something formally to, was it in our minutes someplace or something?
Conversation, presentation.
Conversation is no good for something like this. You better have something in
Somehow
the
it
minutes. You just can't move from one place to another. That'd be like taking Tom's salary to pay a police officer. It doesn't, it's not logical, it doesn't make sense, but they're both in the general fund, so you can do it.
Well, I think Bodenheimer, it was during the meeting. It was
Okay.
probably on a tape somewhere, but it was probably not a formal motion. It was a discussion at the end of a meeting that we had to get the work done that we wanted to have done up there.
Okay, well, we should have got it in the minutes, then. But, okay, that's my only comment.
other questions? Now, Tom, we appreciate the work that you do in putting this together. I would entertain a motion for the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Dan. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 16, consideration of the contract with Van Iwarden Associates for an actuarial study to meet the GASB 45 requirements. Tom.
Mayor and council members, this agreement that's brought before you this evening is a requirement that we have to fulfill according to the Government Accounting Standards Board's number 45. And a lot of this standard comes about because of the many governmental agencies that provide for benefits to employees beyond their retirement. In our situation, we do not provide paid benefits to employees beyond retirement. They may have the insurances beyond retirement at their cost. But with even that in mind, there's some implicit costs that may come about with that. So therefore, we are required to comply with this GASB 45. And in order to do a complete study on this, We did contact the league to find out who the agencies were that could perform these duties, and they gave us a couple, and we contacted them. And this one here was one that has an arrangement with the league to do the study. And as a follow-up, after we got proposals from them, this was the one that kept responding to our questions, whereas the other company was not responding. Also included in this proposal is a study on the severance, and I had discussed this with Ben a little bit, and he agreed that since we are getting into that area where a lot of our employees have a number of years' employment, that maybe we should take a look at the liability that we would have there for the severance area. So we have included that in this agreement for them to go ahead and do that part of it as well. So we're hoping that within 4 to 6 weeks they can have this completed and it reflected in our audit report as is required.
And Tom, this is not something that our current audit firm has the ability to do?
That is correct. They do not have the ability to do it.
Mike?
Yeah, I think the severance pay and coming up with that liability and in essence budgeting for that each year is important. In the past 10 years, anytime we had a vacancy, we just leave the damn position vacant for 6 months or 9 months or 10 months or whatever it took to pay the severance pay. It happened with a police chief that left. It happened with the wastewater treatment plant. It happened with, we can go on and on. That was the way we budgeted for it. I think that's a lousy way to budget for it. We should actually get this number, then each year start setting up a reserve to meet that so that when people retire, the position can be filled.
That's going to include the pay that we have to pay people when they retire for health insurance. Is that also for severance if we, for employees that are, let go or terminated or?
Well, it'll take into consideration, it looks at, for the severance part of it, that is not does not take into consideration the insurance. The insurance part of it is separate from severances that are paid to employees upon retirement or separation from the city. Right now, the policy allows for employees that retire to get 1 month's pay plus 3% for each year over 20 years. And also, they are allowed to put some of their monies into the health care savings plan, again, based on the number of years that they've been there, and the percentages vary. But that's not consistent with all employees because of the different unions that we have. They choose different ways they want to handle the sick leave that they have at the time they leave. And when they go through and do this study, they take a look at each different group separately. Each of the unions are separate. Included in this, we have to include the utilities because they were a part of our health insurance plan. We've got the library, we've got public housing. So they look at all the different scenarios as to what applies to the different areas and do their computations from that.
Okay.
Tom, what would be the completion date?
She said anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks based on when they get the information.
Okay. Is there a motion for this agreement?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Charlie. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 17 is consideration to authorize the proposal with Springstead Incorporated for the review of the tax increment finance districts with the cash flow update. Ben, do you have this?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Members of the City Council, I mentioned this last meeting. This will be coming forward. Again, the last update that was completed was in 2006. I did include some of the summary information that was provided from that last report. I'm not in a position to respond to that report tonight, but just wanted you to get a general idea of what might be included in that. We have worked here traditionally with Springstead Incorporated on a number of our financing reviews. And one of them that we've used in the past is for this type of financial planning. I did not go out and receive other quotes. We are not required to under the competitive bidding law for professional services of this type. They did the last report, so it's an update. We're comfortable utilizing them, and as long as the fees are proposed that are reasonable under a review, yeah, we can go ahead and do this. I recommend that we execute the contract. They have the hourly rate schedule that's included with a not-to-exceed cash a total of $6,000, expecting 2 to 4 weeks to take for the completion of this. I think a number of things have happened since that time. We've had some significant expenditures completed out of our existing tax increment funds, and I think it would be important to take a closer look at our tax increment districts, where they're at, where we're going, whether we have any scheduled to come off to be decertified, which can have an impact on our tax levy. And with the current budget challenges that we're looking at, I think to have a full picture of what's going on will be very important for us to understand. I would look for Springstead to come in and do a presentation of the city councils, probably as well as staff, as a sit-down probably the day of before as well. So with that, I recommend that we do move forward with the contract as proposed this evening.
Okay, questions for Ben?
Ben, where's the $6,000 coming from?
The $6,000, sorry, the $6,000 is an eligible expense out of our existing tax increment funds. So we would expense it out of that existing balance and reallocate it back to all of the tax increment district funds themselves. We can spend up to 10% over time for administration costs to allocate towards these TIF districts, and these are one of the very standard expenses that you incur by taking on tax increment districts. So with that, the source of funds would be existing TIF dollars that we have, and it's an eligible use of funds for that.
Other questions? Not, is there a motion to enter into the agreement with Springsteads for this purpose?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Larry. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 18, consideration of the renewal of fire protection agreements with the surrounding townships for May 1st, 2009 through April 30th, 2011. Ben?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the council, the fire chief, Mark Lath, is unable to be here this evening. He is on traveling currently and unavailable. We did sit down and go through the fire protection agreements. He gave me, I guess, executive summary of where the city's been at with township agreements. I sat down with the public safety director, Rob Yant, who was ill today, and Mark Lath about last week, and went through these agreements, where they've been going. So I got a little bit of a background. We've been basically doing $5 increases per section on the township charges for the services that we provide for fire protection. Mark had indicated basically since the time that he has been there. Some time ago, he'd indicated that he did do a cost analysis to determine, whether we're getting full compensation for the services that we provide. I guess that's still probably up in debate, but in the fire chief's recommendation, he says he has taken a close look at it. The other things he takes into consideration are what some of the surrounding communities that have fire service, what they're providing, to somewhat stay consistent with that. We did talk a little bit about creating a formula to determine fees, and for now, that's something to maybe look at long term, but we do need to get the agreements put into place for the upcoming year for the fire, for the townships with their budget year that's scheduled to occur. I believe they're in a spring calendar year for a fiscal year, and I think they need to get these wrapped up. With that, the contract does extend through, it'd be $180 per section for the 09-010 year, and then for 2010 and 11 would be $185 that they're projecting out. But they would be beginning on May 1st, 2009, and extending through April of 2010. And the general information on the 6 townships that we provide service to are included in there for your information. With that, I'm kind of serving as a pass-through recommendation on behalf of the fire chief. We recommend council's approval.
So the action tonight by the council, if the council makes an action tonight, that would be timely for the presentations to the township at their annual meetings, which occurs the first week of March.
That's correct.
Mike?
Yes, this has been going on to $5 per township, per section for quite a period of time. And if you look at those numbers, it's my problem with it, and I did not get a chance to visit with Mark, is page 18-2, item number 2. We've had a charge of $500 for a call, and that has not changed in, I can't remember how long. The wages go up every year. The fuel cost, of course, that's gone back down. But 99% of the people have fire insurance. All they have to do is turn this bill into the fire insurance company. It's part of the claim. And I think we should have a higher fee than $500 on this, on that portion.
If I might respond to that.
Sure.
Mr. Council Member, members of the council, we did talk about that briefly, and my general recollection is that insurance companies generally have a provision of the $500 figure amount, and some communities have raised it beyond that figure to $1,000 or $2,000. However, standard policies approve up to $500, and I think there might be certain federal legislation or something that has some guidelines for that, but he has indicated that a number of communities that have had a lot of problems with insurance companies when they've increased that $500 amount based on their insurance provisions. Again, very general discussion that we have, so to get into all the legalities of it, I'd probably have to go back and talk to Mark about it, but that was an item that was discussed, and I think it had to do with the reimbursement policies of the insurance company.
Based on what I've seen in the past occur there, when that number was maybe smaller, if you send them a $600 bill, probably half of the insurance companies, or some of the insurance companies are just going to pay it. The others are going to pay $500. So if you can get the extra 100 out of them, why not? Well, I mean, we're not covering our expenses for 5 vehicles.
And we need to put a legitimate figure out there and collect it.
I don't disagree. But I'm saying that number has been the same for a long time. The 500. And yes, the insurance companies are never about to raise that unless the policyholders start complaining. And the policyholder, as long as they keep getting bills for $500, they'll pay them. They're not going to. Somebody's going to have to get a $600 bill and find out the insurance is only for $500 and squawk to the insurance companies. And this doesn't go into effect until May 1st, but I guess I would like to see some more consideration to that $500.
Do you have a recommendation?
Pardon?
Do you have a recommendation?
Yeah,
on that?
table it.
Problem with tabling, though, I'm not sure that is possible for the townships then to.
Yeah, I don't know when the townships have their meeting.
First Tuesday.
But if we do this is for 2 years now. We can't change it until 2011.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Clayton and I did not go in detail over any specific urgencies on tabling this issue, so I guess I'm not able to speak tonight whether tabling the item would have any urgent issue. I guess if worst case, if there is some reason there needs immediate action, we could call a special meeting.
It does, because what is the date that the townships have their annual meeting? I think it's the first part of March, and that's
Tuesday of
when they
March.
usually sign them. That's why I think there is somewhat of an urgency here, but
I've noticed, Mike, there's been some things in the paper about township annual meeting, such and such a date, but I didn't read it.
I guess then we should probably go ahead and approve it, but it's for 2 more years, but
Why
let's
don't you
put
make
it
it
on the radar
$750 then?
Change the amount in the agreement.
Well, I would like to have Mark's input on this.
Or we could make a motion for 1 year, well, I suppose then if they approve a contract.
I just think, let's go ahead and approve it, but let's put that on the radar screen that, when next time we talk to them, that it's been there for 15 years. Maybe it's time we consider raising that.
Sir, something close to a motion. Are you going to make a motion here?
Okay, I'll make a motion. We go ahead with the fire protection agreements, subject to reviewing before,
Second.
in the future, and
Motion.
$500.
Motion by Mike, seconded by Charlie. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Number 19 is council member commission board liaison reports. Actually, mine have not met since our last meeting. Jenny?
Actually, both the Convention and Visitor Bureau was supposed to meet last week and did not meet for lack of quorum. And then last night, Human Rights Commission was supposed to meet, but they could not for lack of quorum.
Okay.
That's it.
Larry?
None of mine have met since the last meeting.
Charlie?
The only one thing I want to note is at the transit meeting, the bus garage that they're building, they made plans to do their parking lot on one end rather than two sides because of the engineering thought it would be, if they had to back into cars all the time, turn the buses around. So it gives them one side to back to and one side to park on, so. It's not going to change the shape of the lot or any of the things, just going to add the parking to one side rather than two.
Anything else?
No.
Mike?
Yes, Lyon County Enterprise, we did have a meeting, a rather long meeting, talking about some changes that we were going to come up with and recommend to the commissioners, and I don't want to go into any real detail on what we're going to be recommending, because I don't want them reading in the paper what we've been doing and because we haven't decided on some of the recommendations.
You okay with
that,
Oh, nothing.
Okay.
Now, that's also for those that aren't aware of it, with the Merit Center, we have a board that's made up of a lot of representatives from out of town and so forth. One of the positions on there is the Southwest region of firefighters, and Don Deutscher from Laverne Fire Department, the chief, held that position. 48 years old and died last Friday. Just so the council's aware of. So I guess I think it would be nice if the city were to send a card to the family.
We have taken care of that.
Yeah, great. Okay. That's it.
None of mine have been.
Staff reports is agenda item number 20th. Ben?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the City Council, a few updates for you. The Fire Scholarship Program documents are included just as informational items. This has been some fundings have been sitting there for some period of time without any formal procedures for making that available, but there is a private donations that have been made towards a fire department scholarship fund that's eligible for families of either current or previous fire people that have served on the fire department. So there was actually a trust fund set up for that, managed by the city, an account that kind of sits there. The city administrator was designated. There were a number of conditions made on the original donation, and there have been some contributions over time as well. But that information is included for you, thanks to Assistant to the City Administrator Sheila Dubbs, who is here tonight. She did all of the work and created the application and forms, and so thanks to her for putting together a professional yet simple format for us. And I have designated the Ways and Means Committee to kind of give direction each year on the amount of money to potentially give out, as well as awarding it and going forward as well. We had some discussion about that, but I think the part of the purpose of doing that was to get some feedback from more than just me, so I'm not criticized on how much money was given out or this or that. At least I can spread the blame amongst other people. So, but I think it's a positive thing, and the fire department kind of has held the responsible party to market this. So this has been forwarded on to them, and so we're happy to say that this money now will be available. It is an endowment fund where the only funds that can be spent are the interest that's generated off of that. Now, because there was a number of years, there is, I guess, if you look at the accumulation of that interest, it wasn't paid out every year. The Ways and Means could technically give out a little bit more if they wanted to, rather than what's on the original year, but we'll kind of leave that to them. But that's just an informational item for the City Council. And I don't know if anybody from Ways and Means wants to comment, to Mr. Bodenheimer or anybody.
I think it was a very clever way for the city administrator to pass the buck on to somebody else to make the decision.
And I did get a hard time too about a voice message was left as well that delegating my voice message. I had my assistant prepare the voice message, and I got a hard time about that too. And it probably had more to do with the fact that I haven't been trained to maybe how I leave my message. So I'll make sure to make it a little more personal and put my own message on there. So it's not my secretary. So
Well, I just called and left a message the other day, and his voicemail, the secretary answered and came up with, I thought most people left their own, messages for voicemail, but apparently not.
excessive delegation, is that what you're suggesting there? Okay, the number of other things I wanted to give you some heads up on as I flip back here. Last meeting, it was brought up on the liquor or underage liquor license notice that did go out in the mail yesterday. We do have a deadline of the March 9th. I gave you all a heads up on that. We will begin enforcement actions at that time, that evening, for those who haven't applied. In our discussions, I guess, a little bit after the fact is, should we have the city council approve if somebody meets the qualifications of not having to meet the 30% requirement, or also there's some provisions that allow like fully restricted areas. At least our original discussions were we probably should just have the council approve it. We'll have them do it through the annual license approvals after this year, but for this year, if we have any applications, we'll probably come and run it through the council just so you're aware of those that would be eligible for any exceptions under that provision. So that is moving ahead as an update to you. There will be some emergency planning on the emergency operation plans. We've been working on updating that, and part of that, the plan that the public safety director has been working on, is to have some roundtable discussions or tabletop, is that right, Sheila? Tabletop exercises where you actually go through mock emergencies. It would include even, even the media people that would be involved, as well as the public safety people. So that'll be coming up in the near future. So we'll be getting some information out to the council on that so that you're aware of some of that planning that's going on. I did attend the meetings that were held regionally on the state budget, the governor's proposal on the budget and how it impacts communities as well as local services. I did go and I made some comments at that meeting last Friday. I know there were a number of you that were there that evening, and so I did put some information into them as well. I had some follow-up discussions with our representative, Mr. Seifert, and we'll continue to have those follow-ups with him. He had some positive feedback on our comments that were made at that meeting for our concerns over local government aid cuts that are being proposed, in particular the 2010 levels that are being proposed, and how we will be looking to be impacted on that going forward. And so I'll be looking to continue to have some legislative meetings on that to try and advocate, to try and reduce that figure, supporting, basically taking the position that we do want to be part of the solution. We accept that the cities will be part of the solution, but to please try and reduce the amount or pain that is felt, particularly when you're looking at the cuts that we're looking at for 2010 and beyond. There is a meeting, I believe, coming up in April, and I'll give you a heads up, where they have they combined legislative meetings for communities to include school districts and cities and counties together on one day. And so I've kind of had some preliminary conversations with the school superintendent as well as the county administrator about maybe doing some ride sharing up there for that event to kind of show our local presence there at that meeting. Following up from the stormwater presentation today on the industrial park planning, at the staff level currently we are doing additional planning in preparation of that will be going before the EDA board's kind of leading some of the review of that. So there is work being done on that, just to give you a heads up. The web portal continues to get some tweaking, I guess, as we go along, and I expect that we'll have some kind of an updated presentation to the city council to show some of the additional features that are included on there. So just so you make it aware, and I do also believe that we'll be doing a little bit of a media campaign on it as well to try and make people aware of that website and all of the useful information that there is available there. Upcoming meeting on Ways and Means, we have kind of a full agenda. We'll have only 45 minutes before our next council meeting, but we do have a few things we need to take care of. One of them is the bonding. MMU is going to be in to do a bonding issue. So we go to Ways and Means first before the city council. We did do a preliminary presentation of the council during the budget process, so it's already kind of been laid out but we'll be doing an update. I have been told that one of the issues that comes up traditionally is a bank qualification limit of $10 million that we have. I've been told secondhand through Brad Rose that the federal government, through the stimulus package, has increased that and doubled it to $20 million for this year and next year. And not that we're going to go out and look to spend a whole bunch, another $10 million, but I think it does leave flexibility, particular in a year where MMU does have kind of a large project schedule ahead of them. So that will be useful for us, I believe, to utilize that. So Ways and Means will have a presentation with MMU. They also wanted to talk a little bit about transmission line investment that their board's been working on for some time. And we also wanted to kind of do an amended fee schedule. So we got a lot of things to do in that 45-minute. We'll see how we do, but we'll get as much packed into that as we can. Next meeting as well, I've been requested, just to give you a heads up, the county wants to come in and give an update on the recycling program changes that they're talking about. Actually, now that I think about it, he can't make the next March meeting, but he's going to come the second meeting in March to talk about that, what that might mean to the city of Marshall with their program changes.
And can I interrupt you on that? On that issue, there's also a finance issue in terms of our recycling reserve fund for the containers that we will need to address at that time, too.
Okay.
Okay.
I did have a memo also on the Merit Center update. There's a number of items. I have scheduled tentatively Mike Willett and probably Don Regnier, too, to come in with the lease approvals on both of those scheduled for next meeting to get wrapped up. We are also, I did include a summary of the utilization rates that was requested. I didn't get a chance to talk a lot to him about the details of this. I'm a little confused about what exactly this means, and I don't know if you are too when you read it, but I figured he's going to be coming in anyway to present this. So I'll probably put the information back in your packets again the next meeting, and then we'll let him go through and explain just the activity levels that are happening out there. But another item, too, is at the legislature, we are currently having, you're all aware, a technical fix to the $300,000 funding that we received for wind generation safety training out there for basically a wind turbine prop, as well as the ethanol burn prop that we have that was approved with that $300,000. I wasn't here at the time, but for some reason during the last process, the language got altered a little bit to only allow funding for design and not for construction or equipment purchase. So we've been working on a technical fix. Mr. Kane did meet again today to match up the House and the Senate's version of the bill so they matched each other so that we don't have to come up and testify. When they're not the exact same language, you have to potentially come and testify. And it's really a technical fix that they generally just rubber stamp, assuming that the original intent was there. So that's what we're hoping to get completed so that we can move forward with this project because we're ready to go. And I think there's a lot of interest in that program. So that is moving ahead as well. With that, I guess those are the general updates I have. I do plan to have some, staff did put some time into some year-end liquor store finance summaries of where that went, so I'll provide that to the City Council as an informational item. I'm also starting to lay the groundwork as through the budget process we approved some studies to be completed on the liquor store, and we talked about creating a subcommittee. I've had some preliminary discussions with the mayor, and we have talked about maybe kind of setting up an administrative type of a committee to go through this, so I'll probably be talking to some of you maybe about that committee structure and getting the ball rolling on that. The council would have to approve any proposals that would be sent out, but we want to give you a heads up on that as well. With that, I guess I'd open up to any questions that you might have with that report.
Thank you, Ben. Questions for Ben? Dennis, do you have anything?
I do have just a few things, Mayor. As Ben alluded to, I have been meeting with Brad Rose, and they are bringing forward it's now called the T1 contract. Several years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, you approved an S1 power purchase contract that runs to the year 2046. He's going to be bringing forward a transmission power agreement that will coincide with that, bringing power directly to Marshall on a stable, Brad will explain it, but also that will be going to the year 2046. So those long-term contracts as entered into by MMU have to be brought forward to the council. So that and the bonding issue you'll hear that at Ways and Means. And I, when Brad talked to me, he indicated to me that the bank qualified may be increased to 30 million a year, not 20, for a 2-year period of time. And then his discussions indicated that at some future point after the 2 years, they will probably roll it back, but not to the $10 million level. He thinks that may be permanently increased to a $15 to a $20 million level. That's for what it's worth. MPCA solvent litigation. Just today, I received an initial draft of those proposed documents. Hopefully March, and I forwarded those on to Glenn for his technical review as well. Hopefully March 10th, we'll have that one wrapped up. MMU power contracts coming March 10th. Hospital sale continues to move forward. There are 8 pages of checklist items that need to be concluded between now and the November close. That does not include, and I just sent something to Ben, we're going to have to convene our Charter Commission and our Legislative and Ordinance Committee to review what happens to the hospital board. That is part of our charter. We're going to have to eliminate that out of the charter, so we do need to convene Charter Commission to address that issue. Economic stimulus, Glenn Olson here is, you know, he's got a lot of contracts to review as we move forward, so that'll occupy an amount of time. And for Mr. Bodenheimer, I'll be bringing forward an action plan as to how we conclude that Maple Street Alley acquisition.
I can cross that off.
Okay. It will involve a significant amount of work because each property owner is going to have to be asked voluntarily to proceed. But, you know, it'll include, Glenn's really good at running public meetings, getting these folks in here. So we hope to do that, bring the people in, explain what's happening. You know, if they want those utility lines serviced, they're going to have to cooperate with us. And so I'm hopeful that that'll take place. And also, it's interesting what's happening. Part of my job also involves also the judicial system. There's a huge conflict that's brewing right now between the governor and his appointed Supreme Court director, his good friend, Eric Magnuson. Magnuson is saying, if you don't give us more money, we're no longer going to be prosecuting. Traffic is out of the court system. Conciliation court is out of the court system. Probate systems are out of, you know, he's going to start cutting and eliminating the prosecution of a number of items. So we're kind of keep our eye on that, but it's setting up as an interesting battle right now between the executive and the judiciary branches. So that's all.
Thank you. And Glenn, do you have anything more?
A couple of items. One, I copied the council on.
Test. I was an advocate for this meeting change. We better make sure that we get the technology working.
Thanks, Ben. I didn't know if the whole council wanted to be copied on some of the MPCA wastewater spill issues that we had at the end of last week, but I thought it might be good for you at least to know about things like that as we go, and I'll continue to do that if those things happen. It was taken care of. It was taken care of well by our department, so there's no more update other than the issue happened and it was taken care of. We've worked with the university today and MnDOT on some changes to the concept of the pedestrian underpass between the university and the high school area. Fairly significant discussions about the project itself not being elevated quite so high above the existing roadway, putting it back in the ground a ways, some different concept designs. So I think in a couple of weeks, by the end of this month, we'll have another meeting with MnDOT and Wilmer concerning that possibility. A lot of work going on with those construction projects. I think I'll leave it at that, and if you have any questions, I'd be willing to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. The councilmember individual items, we'll move on to that. Jenny? Larry?
None.
Charlie?
I only got one thing is, you know, tonight again, we're talking about spending a lot of money and we know there's going to be cuts coming up. And I really thought that the workshop we we're going to have was going to address those cuts or how we might have a plan before it happens of how we can do it. And I guess I'd ask us to consider having a chance to get together as a council and look at some of the ideas that we might have, because if you're looking at 11 months to make cuts, it's a whole lot easier than 6. And probably not as much painful, you know, so maybe we need to take a look seriously at having a meeting where we're gonna know we're gonna get cuts. So how are we gonna handle it? Are we just gonna take it out of our reserves? And what about next year when there's $800,000 worth of cuts? We're gonna take that out of our reserves? And, I mean, seriously, we need to take a look at this and address that and before it happens. I mean, because right now is the time to address it when you got the longer field. Wait until June when we really find out what we got coming. To me, that doesn't make good sense. So I would be an advocate to have some sort of a meeting where we'd sit down and have a workshop that would not deal with how many projects we can do, but how are we going to handle these cuts? How are we going to do it? Address it. That's it.
Dan?
Just one item. I had a call from a citizen out on South 59 about the Jake breaks coming into town, noise ordinances with trucks, you know. And it's not uncommon for towns to have those ordinances. So I don't know if that's an L&O issue or
I think that would be a legislative ordinance issue.
engine braking or whatever you want to call
Right.
it.
Very good. Can we put that on their list?
Yeah, I was going
Dennis?
to say that we discussed that a couple of years ago on something.
Yes, I brought it up a
yeah,
couple years
yeah.
ago. But
Yeah, and I think, okay, we'll put it back on. Sounds good, thank you.
Mike?
yes, Glenn, just a quick update. That basin thing at the repair at the wastewater treatment plant, is that all done, taken care of?
No, the basin repair was agreed upon as far as how it was going to take place late last fall, and the material was delivered, but the weather didn't allow the completion of that work, so that'll be completed this spring.
The spring, okay. If anyone has any topics that they would like, we are going to have that joint ad hoc city/county commissioner meetings, just Dan and I, Phil Nelson and Mark. I've talked to everyone except I still need to get a hold of Phil. We're trying to set it up for March 3rd. The other thing I noticed is part of those adjustments we made tonight, and I know we brought this up and I don't remember what we decided. There was an extra $13,500 collected this past year from the lodging tax that got turned over to the Convention and Travel Bureau. And I guess I would like to formally say I don't want to see the type of financial report they've given us before. I want to see a copy of the actual tax return and the full financial statement. I think we are really neglecting our duty, just collecting that money, turning it over with no accountability. And I know we've talked about it before, but we really need to. Well, it's our responsibility. We haven't had any news from them other than what we've seen is the amount of cash they have in the bank, I guess, and that's about.
And some general expenditures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not an itemized thing.
Certainly is not itemized.
Tom, between you and Jenny, who's the liaison, can you follow up on that?
That's it.
I have just one item, and that is the, with the action of the transition of the hospital board to the Avera board, we have an opening that, or we have a term that is coming up, and that is of Cliff Carmody, who is completing his first term on the hospital board. And in the action that we have previously approved, it's assumed that his position then is named that will continue on. So we would need to reappoint Cliff at that, for the May 31st. So my point is that given our previous action that Mr. Carmody would be serve on the newly formed Avera board after November 1st, we have that period from July until November 1st that the council would need to reappoint him, and it would make it'd be pointless to advertise and have, other applicants when we've already had that previous action. So if it is okay with the council, that would be an action would be brought forward for reappointment of Mr. Carmody for that period of time from July to November. Anyone have issue with that?
From July to whenever the closing.
Till the closing date,
Okay,
yes.
that-
Right,
It may not be November.
right.
Right.
Okay,
Ben had a question.
Ben?
One other, you bring up vacant positions, and it just sparked in my memory here that we do have vacancies on our charter commission, and we really need to get that group together to meet. They're supposed to meet on an annual basis, and I know they didn't for last year, so we need to call them together. We're going to need them anyway to go through some of these hospital amendments, so let's maybe get those appointments out of the way so that we can get that cleared up first. So I think in the past, I think we've talked about this where I'll send another email out. I think there's a handful or so appointments that are open where their term is expired. And in the past, the council has basically offered up, each person's been able to bring in an appointment or something. So if you want to bring any recommendations, then we should probably get that process going to get those positions filled. And I don't know if there's any discussion specifically on filling those, but we need to get that
If
done.
we, right, there's up to, I believe, 15 people that can serve on. There's some flexibility in that number, but what we will need is that list of members and who are serving a 2-year term, who are serving a 4-year term, and then our past practice has been that each council member has brought forward a name from their ward that they represent, and then that may or may not be someone who's currently on the Charter Commission whose term is expired or expiring. So that's why we need that list.
That would
And
be
the
nice to know
district
who's
court
on.
judge technically does the appointments. We submit the names on to them.
It's a recommendation to the district court judge.
But getting back to your comments on Cliff, I would have no problem.
Okay.
That'd be a good move.
I guess my point there is why advertise when, and interview someone when it's already a previous action that Cliff is going to continue, so,
Aren't we legally bound to advertise, though? I mean, I don't want to be.
no.
That was something the council did 30 years ago, was to adopt the process. Prior to that, they used to just appoint out of the good old boys network.
The ordinance only says that the council appoints. It doesn't say the method of recruitment. Okay. You have the information items. Move on then to agenda item number 24, this determination by the council to go into closed session related to the union contract negotiations. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Larry to go into closed session. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we'll now go into closed session.